I'm slightly worried that with the continuous onslaught of SUVs, we're going to end up losing some key car classes, and one of those I think is saloons. And super saloons have been ever popular in the car world. So today we're going to look at 10 that all cost less than £5,000. Super saloon is definitely pushing it. They're just fast saloons or fast for the money. But this is basically as cheap as I can go, so hit like if you want to see more videos like this, subscribe if you're new. Without further ado, let's get straight into it. Let's get started with the Lexus IS 250, a car that's surprisingly popular for modifications and comes with a 2.5 litre V6 engine that puts out 204 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 7.8 seconds. Not hugely quick, mostly because it's quite heavy, but for under £5,000 that's not too bad. The second gen IS arrived in 2005 and did actually have a proper super saloon example, the ISF, but it is a fair bit more expensive, so you'll have to make do with the 250, which came as both an all-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive option. I would personally recommend going for the latter, as in all-wheel drive it's even more heavy and much more cumbersome. It was meant to compete with cars like BMW 320i and other German equivalents in the slower end of the compact executive car class, so it's pretty comfortable all in, with decent build quality too given it's a Lexus, though 2007 and 2008 models were worth avoiding as they were known to be slightly more problematic than other years. They'll run you around 1.7k at the bottom end, and £5,000 will get you into a 2008 model with around 100k on it. Next up we have our only Swedish car on the list, the Volvo S60 T5, which is one of the coolest engines you can get for under 5k. A 2.4 litre turbocharged inline 5, which makes 200 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 7.4 seconds with a lovely soundtrack to match. This was a competitor to the IS 250 as well, and it came with slightly sportier features available too thanks to its multiple faster options. It's a bit of a sleeper in typical Volvo fashion, especially with the right modifications to their engine block. As it's not actually that quick in real terms though, I think the most interesting thing about it is its safety systems. For a car that was first released in 2000, it was years ahead of its competitors when it came to looking after occupants in the event of a crash. Worth looking for one from 2005 onwards, as you'll get the updated facelift as well. They'll run you around £4,000 the bottom end, and £5,000 is enough for a 2007 model with 50k on it. There are some known transmission issues, but according to owners on forums, they're generally reliable cars. In 8th on the list we have the Skoda Octavia VRS, which is actually listed as a hatchback due to the way the boot opens, but aesthetically it's pretty saloon looking in my books. You might disagree. Either way, it comes with an engine out of a hot hatch, the Golf GTI to be exact, with its 2 litre turbocharged inline 4 that produces 197 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 7 seconds, which still isn't too bad for 5k. Compared to the standard Octavia, it's slightly more flary with the nice alloys, bumpers, twin exit exhaust and the likes, and the interior too is a bit more angular. The formula is effectively the same as the Golf GTI, just with slightly cheaper overall vibes. It actually comes as both a petrol and diesel example too, so if you prefer a bit more torque you can go down the diesel route. They'll start at around £1,800 and £5,000 will get you into a 2006 model with 70,000 miles on it. As a VW Group car, the majority of problems I found owners mentioning were pretty typical, like coil packs, ABS failing and the likes. Now let's talk about the Alfa Romeo 159 JTS, which was the predecessor to the lovely Giulia we see out on the roads today. Sadly, of course, we're not getting anything like a Giulia quad for our 5k, so the 159 will have to suffice, with its 3.2 litre V6 engine which makes 260 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 6.9 seconds. We're back to the compact executive car market from the mid-2000s with this one, and the two most special things about it are number one, the designer being the famous Giorgetto Giugiaro, and number two, that engine. Nice to have an Alfa Romeo V6 on the list, especially within our price range. With the right exhaust, it can sound much nicer as well than you'd expect. The interior on this car is super nice too, a bit cheap in terms of materials but classic and Italian too. However, suspensions on these are known to be a bit unreliable and build quality has also been questioned. £4,500 will get you into one of these, making it the joint most expensive car on the list, and you're getting a 2006 model with around 70k on the clock for that kind of money. Everyone knows about the Civic Type R and it's a super popular car amongst people that like cheap performance cars, but slightly rarer and probably slightly cooler too is the Accord Type R, which comes with a 2.2 litre inline 4 engine with VTEC, producing 209 brake horsepower, which will get it to 60 in 6.7 seconds. Very decent out of a car that not many people think of. This car only ran from 1998 to 2002 based on the CH1 Accord and was exclusively available in Europe. In total, just under 2,000 were built, although there was of course a JDM equivalent. It comes with a bunch of chassis stiffening as well as the stiffer suspension and an LSD with larger brakes, a nice Type R style interior and a couple of other interesting bits attached. I think of all the cars on this list, this might be one of the coolest, if only because of the rarity value. They're pretty hard to come by though, of course, but I did find one on sale for 4K while making this video from 2000 with pretty high mileage. Generally these are pretty reliable, but they do suffer one major problem unfortunately, which is rust. So I hope you guys are enjoying this video, but I have a question for you. What is your favourite car class? I mentioned SUVs versus saloons at the start of the video. I would love to hear what your actual favourite type of car is. Taking 5th on the list is a car that is pretty cool, but sadly has had a pretty aggressive reliability record, the Mazda6 MPS, which comes with a 2.3 litre turbocharged inline-4 engine, which makes 256 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 6.4 seconds, helped somewhat by the fact that it's all-wheel drive, but at the same time that adds a fair bit of weight to a car that isn't super powerful. VVT and turbo issues are the most common ones on these, and the engines themselves are known to be glass cannons. But outside of that, you do get a very well-equipped performance saloon with the LSD regulating the power for more traction, and quite a nice looking overall body compared to a standard Mazda 6. I would say the interior looks a bit less interesting when compared with the exterior, but it did come with some cool options like integrated Bose speakers and the likes. To get into one of these, you'll need to spend around £3,500, while 5K gets you a 2006 model with around 85k on it. We've just got the one fast luxury saloon on this list, and you're looking at it, the Mercedes S500, which comes with a 5 litre V8 engine, producing 306 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 6.1 seconds, genuinely not bad for a car of its age and actual purpose, and by that I mean ferrying execs around in the back in the early 2000s. This is from the W220 generation S-Class, which remained the flagship car during its tenure. That meant it got the best of luxury and technology for the time. Yes, it's still a pretty old car given it came out in 1999, but it was still ahead of its time. Aesthetically, I don't think it's aged very well, and another issue that plagues them is rust, as it came from a time when Mercedes dropped their incredible record for build quality, which is a real shame. Either way though, it is the most luxurious car on the list, and offers the largest engine too, in case that tempts you. £2,500 to get you into one of these, and double that gets you a high mileage 2000 model. On to the top 3 now, all of which get to 60 in under 6 seconds. First up, it's the E90 BMW 330i, which comes with a 3 litre inline-6 engine, producing 269 brake horsepower, which will take it to 60 in 5.9 seconds. Enough for a bit of wheel spinning fun, even if it lacks the turbos of a 335i. The E90 marked the 5th generation BMW 3 Series, and it remains one of the most popular, as the last one before the Coupe and Convertible split out into the 4 Series. I do think both the Coupe and Convertible are prettier than the Saloon, and the Estate is cooler than it, but the Saloon definitely has its place for those who want 4 doors and don't need the practicality of an Estate. Try to get one in M Sport spec, not because it makes the car any better, just aesthetically it looks cooler, and regardless you get an interior that I personally think is aged really well in a car more reliable than the E90s above it in the range. They cost around 1.2k at the bottom end, with 5k getting you a 2008 model with 90k on it. Just missing out on the top spot is the Audi S4, a properly cool old school super saloon with its 4.2 litre V8 engine that makes 339 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 5.4 seconds, which is a lot of performance for the money. This 3rd gen S4 is a proper super saloon for its time, with that engine leading the charge. This sadly included running costs, where it was known to easily do less than 25 miles per gallon, which isn't great as a daily in times like these. Either way though, you get a nice wide and aggressive stance on the exterior and a sporty interior too, though I have always thought the Cabriolet is a cooler car to get your hands on today. It also comes mated to a manual as standard, which is always fun, manually shifting an angry 4.2 litre V8. Close your eyes and you can pretend you're in a 1st gen R8. 4.5k is enough to get you into one of these, and 5k will get you a 2003 model with 90k on the clock. Clogged injectors, loosening chain tensioners, and spark plug issues are most common problems on these. Taking the top spot in this video is the Jaguar S-Type R, which genuinely offers ridiculous performance for our price range. It comes with a 4.2 litre supercharged V8 engine, putting out 400 brake horsepower, which gets to 60 in 5.3 seconds, which is silly, especially when you consider these start at a hair over £4,000, while 5k gets you a 2002 model with around 100,000 miles on the clock. This was built to compete with the BMW M5 and the E55 AMG of the time, and was able to probably take on both of those competitors in a drag race effectively. I've always thought they look insanely cool with the wire mesh grille, the tastefully modified exterior, and the built-in fog lamps, alongside the more performance-focused features as well. Genuinely think it's got a bit of old school cool about it, and one day we might see some of the perfect examples being cherished by Jaguar fanatics, at least in my opinion, especially as the engines are pretty good on them. Owners do note that you should watch for suspension bushings perishing over time on these, however. And that brings us to the end of this list. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, do hit the like button and subscribe as well if you're new. And if you want to see some more expensive super saloons, then click up here, subscribe as well down here. Huge thanks to the patrons for their support, and to you guys as well for watching. I'll see you in the next one.